Digimon transition. Damn, that actually looked really cool. I'm happy with that, how that turned out. But yeah, hello, welcome to another video. This year, 2023, has been pretty good for me actually. I feel like my interest in many things has been rekindled, revived as it were. I started playing Pokemon games again and kind of collecting the TCG quite heavily. At the start of this year, I beat Pokemon Scarlet, which I really enjoyed, and I actually beat Pokemon Sapphire for the very first time, which was long overdue, but that was a really good game as well. But kind of in between all that Pokemoning, it made me think about my relationship with the other big mon in my life, which is Digimon. Digimon and Pokemon are both very special to me, and they've pretty much been present throughout my whole life. But I feel like Digimon's relevance in my life, as it's gone on, has changed in ways that Pokemon's hasn't. It's kind of grown with me, I feel. So I made a Virtual Boy video a while back where I said I wanted to talk about stuff that means something to me, has some kind of value. And Digimon is one of those things, I feel. So today I'm going to talk about Digimon and me, which I think is actually quite a good video name. I think I'm going to use that, yeah. So Digimon's kind of a weird beast in the UK in that it never really had kind of the power that Pokemon had and continues to have. I feel like its popularity here was kind of centralized or kind of confined to the 90s or like kids of the 90s. So Digimon was slightly before my time, just by a little bit. But luckily I had an older sibling who remembers, the very first 2 seasons of Digimon. So yeah, I was kind of fortunate in that respect. But it feels like people still kind of knew vaguely what Digimon was, or they had like this misconception about it, which a lot of people do seem to have, which is that, oh, Digimon is just a rip-off of Pokemon. Or like, we had like the jokes like, how do you get Digimon onto the bus? Pokemon. So it had some kind of like pop culture presence, but it was very minimal, and it wasn't enough that people really knew what it was. And I don't think I really found anyone who knew kind of what Digimon was to the level that I did. Until this year, actually. It was kind of weird. It was like one of my friends who isn't actually from the UK originally, like he remembered watching it as a kid in Asia. So yeah, that was kind of a weird moment where like I just found out by complete happenstance, if that's the right word to use, that this guy liked Digimon and knew what it was as well, which was kind of cool. So because Digimon had a very limited presence in the UK growing up, I had very few bits of Digimon memorabilia that I still have with me, because this stuff was hard to come by, and so it was kind of valuable, for me at least. So I had these 2 McDonald's Digimon plushies. I have this Piomon with a funky tail that I'll talk about later. I've got this Palmon, which has kind of a cool story behind how I got it. And some of the furs like coming off. That's not good. I'm gonna have to deal with that. And another thing I had was this really weird, like this is hard to explain what this is, but my sibling got these from Burger King in like the early 2000s. These were it was like a weird kind of puzzle thing. It's like these bits of cardboard and they had like designs on them. So this has V-mon on it. This was coinciding with like Digimon Season 2 or like Digimon Adventure Road 2. So what? This is one of Shurimon's like shuriken, I guess. It's got like what was it? Chibimon, or what was Chibimon called in Demi V-mon, right? I think it was called in English. That guy. Yeah, I think that's Chibimon, right? This guy, man. I'm making a mockery of Digimon here. I think that is Hulsmon. And yeah, I've got like Shurimon, Angemon, what's his name? Motomiya Daisuke. Yeah, we got Raidramon, Ichijoji Ken. We've got Pegasmon as well. So yeah, how do I this is I don't know what this is. I don't know how I still have these random bits of cardboard after like 20 plus years. But that kind of gives an idea of how much I valued this stuff. Like, I wasn't finding any Digimon stuff anywhere, so I had to hold on to what I had. And the other things I have, which I guess are more substantial that I found a bit later on in life, are these Digimon Data Squad, or Digimon Savers toys. So we've got, this guy is Galgamon, right? I haven't watched Digimon Savers properly, to be honest. And this is Geogreymon, I believe. And they evolved. They actually, like, you can like change them into like Rise Greymon and whatever this guy becomes. But yeah, it's actually really cool. And they came with these chips, these things that you are supposed to use with the Digivice IC to like get items and stuff in this game. But yeah, these I have a story behind how I got these as well, which I'll get into. But like I say, these were slightly later on, when I was like year 7, so when I was like 11 or 12. And actually, one thing I did forget to mention are these Digimon DVDs from Season 1, or Digimon Adventure as it is known in Japan. Those episodes, or those DVDs, went up to the end of the Devimon arc, which is like the very first arc of the Digimon anime, first season of it. So yeah, those are the things that I had as a kid that I've managed to hold on to, and like I say, I've got stories behind them. But you know, since coming back into the Digimon fandom, I've bought a lot more stuff. So I got a Digivice IC finally, and we'll get into that. So this Piomon plush I actually acquired, I inherited as a kid from my siblings, so this is kind of a family heirloom, it's a big deal. But this was the very first time I saw any Digimon memorabilia as a kid, and it was kind of surreal to like hold something like this in my hands. I lost this for a while, so I lost this for a couple years I think as a kid, and when I found it again, the tail had actually fallen off. So I don't know if I can show you this, but yeah, you can see there's like some threads there. So that tail, it hadn't like fallen off fully actually, it was kind of hanging on by a thread. And I also had like a Seadra, like a Burger King Seadra plush, not Seadramon, Seadra the Pokemon. And that thing's like tail had also like fallen apart as well. So my mother actually, she sewed this tail back on, and she stitched up that other Seadra plush, which I wish I had to show you guys. And so that's why Piomon's tail is so weird. And yeah, it's a little funky, but the way I see it now as an adult is, for one thing, I'm really grateful that my mum did stuff like that for me as a kid. But the other thing is that, you know, I know this is my Piomon, at least now. And it's been with me a long time, so I cherish it. Funnily enough about my mum, I guess, is that these Digimon Data Squad toys, she actually bought these for me as well. So she doesn't realize it, but she's actually done a lot for me as a Digimon fan. So thanks mum, if you're watching this video, if you ever do watch it. So here is my Palmon plush. This and Piomon actually, I think it was the start of last year, 2022. I found them again because they'd gone missing, and I gave them a nice wash. Like I properly like cleaned these plushes. Which is kind of funny to see like these two Digimon toys just like sitting in like a tub. I got a few photos of that, which kind of cracked me up a little bit. But this Palmon has a very interesting story how I got it. So I had the Piomon, and at my secondary school, when I was in year 8, I think, or year 7 actually, maybe, yeah. We had a school fair, and the head of the school, her son, had like a stall with like this game where you throw balls into cups or something like that, and the cups are like at different distances, so kind of like a beer pong situation, I guess. But among all the toys that this kid was giving away, I guess he was kind of an older kid, so he had stuff like Digimon toys. At the very end of the table, he had like this Palmon plush, so I immediately recognized that this was a Digimon. Kind of lost it a bit, and I knew, like, my instincts kicked in, and I knew I had to get this. So I like paid him like £1, however much the money was, picked up the ball, threw it, got a perfect shot in like the furthest cup, and when they asked me what I wanted, like straight away I was like, that. So I got this plush like that. Some real chosen child stuff, to be honest. Maybe I was destined to be one of the chosen children. Maybe in another universe, another timeline. But sadly, we live in probably the worst timeline where I'm not a Digimon Tamer. So I did eventually bite the bullet and buy the whole set of these McDonald's toys last year. So with these TK Maxx toys, I remember I was in year 7, and I went with my mum into like a store called TK Maxx, which is basically like a chain we have in the UK. but they also used to sell like some really old, like weird toys. And I remember seeing like this in the packaging. It must have been imported from the US or something. But yeah, kind of, again, a similar situation with like seeing the Piyomon and the Palmon. Like, I couldn't believe I was seeing a Digimon thing in the UK. So like, I kind of begged my mum to get this toy. They also did have the Galgamon, or the Galmon, Galgamon I think. They also had this guy, but I didn't want to like, get too cocky as it were. So I got this, and then when we went back to that TK Maxx some other time, I got the Galgamon. But yeah, like I mentioned before, they came with these like chips for the Digivice IC, but I always knew in the back of my mind, even back then, that one day I wanted to get like a Digivice IC. But I remember like looking on eBay at the time, and those things were expensive, and even now like Digivice toys are kind of expensive actually. But dreams do come true if you try hard enough, or if you throw enough money at them. And I did eventually get this Digivice IC. I still haven't figured out how to work it properly. It's not quite like a traditional Digimon V-Pet, but one of these days I'll try and get around to it. Now unfortunately I did try to use these chips with it. You're basically meant to like push them on like that, and then keep them held and it reads the data. But it didn't really work. I think it worked with one of them, but it didn't really like generate anything meaningful, so I guess they're just like cool little knickknacks I've got. Oh well, I mean, I guess they do look pretty cool. And this thing looks pretty cool. Who knows, maybe I can cosplay, what's the guy called? Masaru Daimon, I think is his name, the guy. Marcus is what he's called in English, yeah. The funny thing is that like even now, almost 15 years after the fact, I do still sometimes find myself walking into TK Maxx like shops to see if they've got like by some cosmic miracle that they've got some Digimon toys there. It's not gonna happen. I don't know why I'm still hanging on to this hope. But yeah, it's kind of funny that even now I still think about this, like maybe I'll go in at TK Maxx and it'll have some more Digimon Data Squad toys. There is interest, and then there's obsession, and maybe I am just too obsessed. Maybe I just need to let it go. And then I guess the last knickknack I want to show is this Super CSA, Super Complete Selection Animation D-Arc from Digimon Tamers. This is Takato's version, not the golden one that he gets later on. But this thing's really cool. Like, it has like the music from the show. It has like the Digimon search function. You can like evolve Gilmon all the way up to Dukemon on this thing. It's pretty rad. Like, maybe one day I'll try and cosplay Takato, but yeah, I'd probably look a little strange. A little too big for one thing. So that pretty much sums up all the Digimon memorabilia that I've held onto since I was a kid. Since like last year, I've bought more stuff. So I've started playing the V-Pets, collecting them. So I have several DM20s, I've got the Pendulum 20ths. I even had like a Pendulum Progress and a Pendulum X, but I didn't really use them much. And I've got the new trading cards, those D-Arcs like I showed the Takato version back there, and much more. So enough of the materialistic talk. I guess now I'll go into a little bit of what Digimon means to me actually. So like kind of from 2021 to 2022, I was in a bit of a rut, bit of a low point. I was a bit miserable at my old job and I wanted to escape. You know, I felt like I wasn't really going anywhere. And then one day after work, I just casually went into my local game store, which, rest in peace, is shut down now. And I saw that they had this Digimon trading card game stuff. So that made me feel suddenly quite nostalgic for Adventure and Adventure 002. And I picked it up. And those like structure decks that I bought at the beginning, they were kind of cool because they also came with like the packs, like just regular packs of the card game. So I kind of got a little obsessed with that. So I started learning how to play the card game, and as I was doing that, you know, I started rewatching the anime from Adventure to Adventure 02 to Tamers. And it reminded me how much, you know, I loved that anime as a kid, and the characters always felt so much more real to me. Even back then as a kid where most of the meaning of stuff was like flying over my head. And you know, the fact that I've been learning Japanese for a while now, I could kind of appreciate, you know, the nuances of like the dialogue and, you know, the voice acting from the seiyus. It kind of gave me like a newfound respect for Digimon. and it made me realize like how kind of deep that show goes in terms of like the characterization and where it takes the characters. As I was playing the TCG and watching the anime, I also started playing the video games. So I did buy Digimon Survive, and I played a little bit of it on my Switch, and I was enjoying it, but then life kind of got in the way. I also got this Digimon, this Taichi Digivice colored WonderSwan, which I modded and got like a multi-cart for, and I started playing the WonderSwan Digimon games, which are fun, you know, they're fun little RPGs. But sometimes I find like if you're not enjoying video games very much, going back and playing like a simple or an older video game kind of reignites the spark, and that's what those games did for me a little bit. And while I was consuming all this Digimon media, you know, looking at the character designs and stuff, that also started inspiring me creatively again. I think when I started that job, kind of like throughout COVID actually, like university, I kind of stopped drawing a little bit. That whole hobby of mine fell to the wayside a bit. But I felt suddenly really inspired to draw again because of Digimon pretty much. And because they had like those card game tournaments for creating art for the card game, I actually made some art to enter into the card game tournament. And you know, like in the back of my head I knew that it wasn't really going to win any awards, but it was just the act of like kind of committing to making some art again. I felt a lot of joy in that whole process, and it kind of, like I've said a lot in this video actually, it kind of rekindled that passion for me, right? So I've got Digimon to thank for that pretty much. And the music in the Digimon anime, like Koji Wada's music and like AIM's music, very inspirational stuff actually. That the lyrics in those songs and, you know, just the songs themselves, like they are really uplifting, and you know, they really lifted me out of a dark place a little bit. So I'm grateful to pretty much every aspect of Digimon, like the anime, the music, and the character designs in the anime, the story, the characterization, the video games, the card game. I'm pretty much a consumer, you know, like I'm just consuming this shit, but it means a lot to me, pretty much, right? So yeah, I guess to get briefly into like the anime a little bit, you know, like evolution for one thing in Digimon always felt so much more like impactful, and even now, like having rewatched like Adventure 02 and Tamers, where this is especially apparent actually, you know, like evolution in Digimon, it kind of represents the growth between a Digimon and their partner, right? Because Digimon aren't just like animals like Pokemon, they're not just pets, like they're very sentient beings, like they, you know, they're cognizant of everything, like they have personalities, and you know, like the thing about those like old anime is you see like these kids kind of taken out of their element and kind of being forced to mature a bit, but you also see how they, you know, they start off bewildered by like these Digimon, and then they grow to become like their best friends pretty much. So kind of that whole element of kind of maturing and growing, like that's especially relevant I feel, and that's something you don't see in Pokemon, right? Because Pokemon is designed to be like an evergreen anime that kids of any generation, or like kids of every generation, can just pick up and watch, and it's just a fun simple adventure. But Digimon, and you kind of see it, they tried to do it a bit with like the Adventure Tri movies and with like Last Evolution Kizuna, but they try to show that, you know, these characters change. You know, they start off as innocent kids and then they grow to teenagers, to young adults. Their hearts aren't necessarily in the same place where they were as kids. They don't have all the time in the world. They've got other commitments as we do as people. But as long as they kind of like stay true to themselves, they remember the bonds with the Digimon. And, you know, that's kind of, that says a lot about people as well, you know, as long as we kind of stay in touch with our inner children a bit and kind of try and keep our hobbies and interests alive. You know, like we can keep going a little bit, and we can maintain ourselves, not lose ourselves, which is something I felt happened with me at that job, you know? Like I was doing it and I felt just unfulfilled. And as stupid as it sounds, you know, I know how freaking absurd this must sound, that like a children's anime and like a franchise did this much for me. But that was the spark. That's all I needed. And sometimes like inspiration comes from weird places. For me, that came from Digimon. And don't even get me started on Tamers, you know, like that show explores such like lofty, such like existential concepts. I really didn't expect that going in. And it's really funny actually to see like the characterization of someone like Ruki in Tamers, and then you go to Izumi in Frontiers, or Digimon Frontier after this show, which was the next season, and it's just like night and day. It's like, what went wrong? Like, the character writing in the previous show was so exemplary, and then the next show, it's not, Frontier's not a bad show. Like, it's a fun adventure, but that's what it is. It's a fun adventure. It's not like something especially deep. But I digress. I'm getting way too caught up in like talking about this, and I could probably sit here all day rambling about Digimon. But yeah, my main wish for Digimon, because I feel like the reason that it even came back on my radar in the first place is because Bandai has been promoting Digimon quite heavily as of late, I feel, with the card game, with like the anime stuff, like, you know, Ghost Game and Adventure Colon, and like this Adventure 02 movie that is coming out soon that I'm excited for. With all these projects, like, they are trying, and I've got to give them kudos for that. And I hope its popularity continues to grow, because I think, I really think that people are sleeping on the old Digimon anime, and just Digimon in general. These like Digimon fests they've done have been a bit lackluster, I feel, in terms of getting people engaged. But I hope the card game continues to keep going as strong as it is, and I hope they make more anime that kind of explores more cool and unique concepts, because I feel like the first 3 anime, they really did do something special there. So while Pokemon's appeal may be its simplicity and, you know, the fun of just picking some Pokemon and fighting and stuff and exploring a world, Digimon's got its own quirks and its own unique elements. It has done a lot to inspire me as a person and bring me out of a dark place a little bit, and I hope it keeps inspiring me, and I hope Digimon stays alive and keeps going strong. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say today. I guess, you know, Digimon protagonists tend to wear goggles, and in Digimon protagonist fashion, I will put on my goggles. Oh, I did that upside down, jeez. And bid you farewell.